Up until that dream, I dreamt about as much as I prayed, which is to say virtually not at all. After the dream, after Emma in the water, God and I got down to business. "What do you want of me?" he asked. "You know damned well what I want," I said. Like me in my 10 years of sullen silence, he clammed up. He didn't take kindly to my approach. Even forgetting my misery, he still had a lot to answer for. What did he expect? Gratefulness and bended knees? I called him out. "Don't sull up on me. I want my leg back." "You have your leg. You have two." "You actually have the nerve to say that?" I was pissed, but for some reason I couldn't help laughing. I was pissed at that too. "Perhaps my eyes are different than yours. I see two legs. One, two. One of these is plain rusted. I see no rust. Not one for metaphors either, I see." "No, I guess not. I like it plain and simple." I'll say, "Let me make it plain and simple for you then. I want my leg, this one, the one I've been gimping around on for 10 years now. I want this leg healed." He took a long time before answering. "I can't do that," he said flatly. "Can't or won't. Just plain can't. It's not in my power. Whatever made you think I could?" I was dumbfounded, but I spat out, "I've listened to enough crap spilling out of William Rooney's trap to think there just might be the possibility." Dr. Rooney has a somewhat inflated opinion of my capabilities. I'll say the man is full of it. He let that invitation to comment pass. "Do you honestly think that I would have let you slam into that tree if I had the power to stop it?" "Well, damn, man, then what the hell good are you? I could sit around and watch the world go to hell as well as you can." "Yes, you can and do." "What the hell is that supposed to be?" "Nothing at all other than that you can and you do." "You mean up here on this ledge? You mean that woman in the water?" "I mean everywhere. I've no axe to grind with you, brother. Because I didn't ask for her to strip naked. I didn't ask for that. It seems you don't ask for much at all. From what I hear from you, it sounds like there's not much point in asking anyway." "I don't know about that. A body's gonna ask. That's what bodies do. Or so I hear. That girl must have heard too." "Heard what? I told you, I did not ask for anything from that girl." "Easy, brother, easy. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I looked too. How could I not? You think that girl wanted to show me her naked body? Oh, I don't know about that. I just said she must have heard you." Though I was sorely tempted to spill the beans, I saved William Rooney from the shock of that conversation and all the others that followed. I thought they would just double up the smirk on my face while Dr. Bill laid out his load of theological crap. But strangely, it softened me up for the man. There was something touching about someone who would yearn so much and publicly declare that yearning day in and day out. About 6 months after the conversations began, I joined the church over on 3rd Street. "You got a problem with that?" I asked the next time out at the ledge. "Why would I have a problem? I go too," he said. "Hell of a brisket, ain't it? I wouldn't know. I forget it." The next time out to the canyon, I walked down to the sycamore. The water was up good and fast after the rains, but clear from a few days of running clean. "You don't have to look. Believe me, I'm not calling you," I said. "Sorry, I don't have much choice. Suit yourself. It's not going to be pretty. I'll be the judge." How did I know he was smirking? "Suit yourself. You've been warned." I stripped it all off, just as Emma had done, and stepped into the water. It was shockingly cold, and for a moment threatened to pick me up just the same way it did 10 years ago. But I sank down lower in the water and pushed off on my good leg to the big sycamore roots. I didn't climb up on them the way Emma did, but just hung on. After a few minutes, I warmed up and then pushed off, floating down to Emma's green pool. That whole time in the water, it felt like my old leg back. I got my old leg back. If I'd been alone, I probably would have cried. It felt so good, but I wasn't giving him the pleasure. Besides, when I finally climbed up onto Emma's rock, the pain was right there as always, stabbing away at my hip. "I'm sorry," he said. "The hell you are. What good's that supposed to do me?" None, I'm sure, but I liked how it felt when the pain went away in the water. What the hell do you mean you liked? Forget it, I'm sorry. I'm sorry is all. Look, just shut up, okay? I really wasn't all that angry, even about the pain. I just wanted him to shut up so I could sit and maybe see what Emma saw, maybe feel what she felt. I don't know if I did or not. I do know that it felt good to sit and get lost in the sound of the water and to imagine that Emma Sullivan was sitting beside me. And when the shivers came on, well, I just shook for a while, like when I'd seen her shake. That's it. So that's part of Peter's story. That's book one in the novel. And then book two, I didn't have to do a PG version on this. Book two is Emma telling her story. And Emma starts out in Cherokee, Arkansas, and then she goes in search of herself. And she travels down the Palestine Highway, Highway 79 through East Texas, on down to Austin. And she stays in Austin for a while. And then she decides, while she's in Austin, I don't know, I won't spoil this part for you, but anyway, she goes on sort of a mission to New Mexico. And she's on a mission to do something for a friend of hers who she met and befriended in Austin. And so she heads from Austin out to New Mexico. And I'm going to read a little bit of that section for you here. So this is Emma's story, Emma Sullivan. We reached Española in the early afternoon after a big swoop past Santa Fe. Since I was sure we'd loop back to Española, I didn't linger there. We took the highway east into a mountain valley towards Chimayo. The sky was turquoise blue against yellow mountains. It was a lazy drive in the afternoon sun, little traffic and a winding road. Jackie the dog took a snooze in the back seat for both of us. Chimayo was little more than a village scattered along the mountain highway. I was hungry again, so I stopped off at a big hacienda restaurant under a grove of trees, Mr. Dillard. Ever the telepath, Jackie stayed sprawled out on my sleeping bag as I got out of the car. There was still a bite in the air, but sun and sky conspired to create an illusion of warmth. The lunch crowd was winding down in the restaurant. The woman who greeted me took me to the lounge and seated me next to a wonderful piño on fire. I was the only diner in the room. The bartender was the only other human. Over against a pair of French doors lounged a gargantuan white dog, a great Pyrenees, the bartender told me. He took my order and smiled as I declined his suggestion of a Chimayo cocktail. As you wish, he said, Mr. Rodemeyers. A few minutes later, he set one down in front of me, smiling as if he had set a precious jewel in its place. My compliments, he said. I'm the designated driver, I said. I went light on the tequila, he replied. There is no such thing as light on the tequila, I said, but took the lovely cocktail glass in hand. I smell apples. Apple cider, lemon juice, creme de cassis, and Herradura. Herradura? Shall we say the culprit? He bowed ever so slightly. Culprit was right. It was nowhere to be found in my first sip of the drink, which quickly led to second and third and larger sips. Halfway through the drink, I felt like my body had turned into a river. I could hear myself rushing over stones. Someone took possession of my mouth and said, Alejandro, for so the bartender had introduced himself. Indeed, he said, from behind his beautifully carved wooden bar. Do you hear the river? The river? I felt myself rushing over the brilliant white limestone of the Greenbelt back in Austin. I am a river. You should see me. Ah, yes, the river. He chuckled. I could not turn to him in his mirth. The sun of the fire felt as if it were nestled upon my left cheek. To turn would be to lose the sun. Why are you giggling, Alejandro, I said. For most it is something like Niagara Falls. You were the first river. You are a very bad man, Alejandro. Muy mal, he replied. He was, in fact, a bit of a shaman. I spent the next 3 hours in his empty lounge as he went about his afternoon chores. He gave me just the one cocktail, but fed me an abundant feast of his own choosing, items mostly not on the menu. When he moved to an outdoor bar for further errands, he took me with him and set me down at a table on a lovely hillside terrace behind the hacienda. At one point I mentioned Jackie, and he left to rescue her from the wagon. She lay on the warm flagstone of the terrace while I drank very strong coffee. My head was coming back around. Alejandro was hand-squeezing limes. "Shouldn't I be cold out here?" I said. "Chimayans are never cold," he replied. Now that's the Herradura talking. He smiled and nodded. "Precisely." Alejandro lit a fire in the kiva fireplace beside the table. The sun had gone down behind the mountains and the valley light was dimming. Evening diners were beginning to take tables inside the restaurant and on the terrace beside other kivas. Waiters were lighting votives on all the tables. I was no longer drunk, but I still did not want to move. I had not felt such peace in a very long time. With a feeling of heartache, I said, "Alejandro, I must go." "What is this must?" he said. "There is no must. You have just arrived in Chimayo. Have you been to the Weavers?" "No." "To the Santuario?" "Of course not." "Have you not yet fulfilled your obligation?" "You have not yet fulfilled your obligation to Chimayo. Of course you cannot leave." "You are taking me prisoner?" "On the contrary, I am setting you free." He sat down beside me and folded his hands upon the table. I liked his face very much. His hair was very dark. There was a hint of Emiliano Zapata in his look with his dashing mustache, but there was also an extraordinary gentleness in his manner. I could not tell his age. He could have been 40, could have been 60. "Listen to me," he said. "I do not make it a habit of handing out free drinks to every person who walks into my lounge. Ask my friends. Much to their chagrin, I make them all pay me up front. But this afternoon I see a young woman walk into my room, and the first thing I feel is my heart is breaking. The feeling does not stay with me long, but for the few moments before it passed, I was filled with an overwhelming desire to weep. Alejandro Montoya is not given to tears, believe me. After that feeling passes, I feel a clenching like chains around my heart. These are not the feelings of Alejandro who lives in this quiet valley. These are feelings, I realize quickly, that this young woman has brought with her into my tidy little workroom. What can I offer this woman, I wonder? I have nothing to offer her. I'm a man who plies liquor into his customers, listens to their stories, wakes them with coffee when it's time to go home. I do not know how to cure such pain as you carry in this afternoon. I'm at a complete loss, and then Christ whispers to me, "One Chimayo cocktail will not hurt her." I tell him she has already refused. "Yes, I know," he says, "but this one is on me." So I give you his cocktail, and I feed you, and let you sit with me while I putter around, and I can see and feel in my own chest that your heart is lighter. The chains are looser. Yes, I know your pain is not gone, but you have felt some of the peace that so many others feel who stumble into our little valley. People who come to Chimayo and drink the drinks I set before them, eat the food we cook for them, who then buy their blankets and wool jackets from the weavers, and then go and get soppy-eyed over at the Santuario as they experience maybe 5 minutes of a little mystery in their lives before heading out for their next shopping spree. Not once do they think of giving anything back besides the money they charge to their silver and gold and blue and titanium credit cards. But I look at you and I say to myself, you are not one of those people. You come with your broken heart and your little dog and your strange car with a sleeping bag in the back seat, and before I know it, you are a river running across river stones. And out of nowhere, the thought comes to be, she must give back. I'm puzzled. I do not know what this means. I think maybe this is Christ speaking again to me, but he says, no, Alejandro, this is all yours, mijo. So forgive me, mija, but I cannot shake the idea that you have an obligation and you have not met it. There was a lot of words to take in on strong black coffee, but one thing was clear to me. I felt no need and no desire to argue. I hadn't a clue what this all meant, but my body just seemed to be saying, the man is right, you're not going anywhere. Still, I put up the token fight. I said, I don't have a titanium card, Alejandro, but would cash do? He smiled, relieved, I think, to be shorn of the intensity of his big speech. He said, Emma Sullivan, you are a very bad woman, very bad.